You know, I mean, I'm looking at guys like Marco Rubio, who has the worst voting record in the United States Senate, and a young guy, although he sweats more than any young person I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a person sweat. I've never seen a guy down water like he downs water. I've never seen, they bring it in buckets for this guy. But you know, I have various people that I have to knock out before I get to the other race. And when I get to the other race, I will win that race.
And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. Donald Trump still doing great in the polls. And if you don't believe me, just ask him. He'll be the first to tell you. And he's still continuing his war with Senator Marco Rubio, this time calling him sweaty. Why? Well, Trump apparently now sees Rubio as a threat, and that means the Florida senator is ripe for personal attacks, Trump style. Senator Marco Rubio didn't let this one pass, though. While doing a Kentucky radio show yesterday, he had this to say.
He takes shots at everybody that gets anywhere close to him, and it does, you know, in terms of a poll, or anytime he hits a rough spot, that's what he does. He had a really bad debate performance last week. He's not well informed on the issues. He really never talks about issues and can't have more than a 10-second soundbite on any key issue. And so I think he's kind of been exposed a little bit over the last 7 days, and he's a very touchy and insecure guy, and so that's how he reacts, and people can see through it.
Now, Mr. Trump, not one to let an opportunity go by himself, launched into Rubio during today's Voters Value Summit in Washington, but this time, Trump didn't get the expected response.
You have this clown, Marco Rubio. I've been so nice to him. I've been so nice. I've been so nice. And then, no. But he's in favor of immigration, and he has been. He has been. It was the Gang of Eight, and you remember the Gang of Eight. It was terrible. And then he went down in the polls, and you have to stay. You know what? If you believe in something, you have to be true to yourself. You have to be. You have to be.
You know, this should be one of our poll questions. Was the crowd booing Marco Rubio, or was the crowd booing Trump? I believe they were booing Trump. Let's put this one to a vote of the panel, Noah. Who were they booing there?
They were booing Donald Trump.
They were, right?
Because it was gratuitous, it was unnecessary, and it was rather ham-fisted. And you could tell he knew exactly what was happening because he pivoted so quickly to immigration in order to rescue the crowd. That's the tell. He knew what was happening there. I would be curious to see if he got the exact same reaction if he had said that about Ben Carson. Because Ben Carson has very similar favorability ratings. Depending on the poll you look at, Marco Rubio is among the most favorable figures in the 2016 field. Ben Carson is very similar. So I suspect it was just because a lot of people really like Marco Rubio, they didn't appreciate that. But I felt they'd probably feel the same way about Ben Carson.
But I think it was the first time I've seen the crowd boo Trump, if I'm not mistaken. Carrie, I think you're a Trump fan, right? You like Donald.
I'm a fan of nobody in the field. Okay, let's get that straight.
Are we starting to see that moment? I mean, his polls, he's still in first place. He's hanging in there in most of the polls. But are we starting to see that decline? Are the wheels maybe starting to come off, or is he still going strong?
You know what? I think we're starting to see Trump actually kind of bring down his rhetoric actually just a little bit. You know, I watched a very interesting interview with the David Brody over at the Christian Broadcast Network. Trump was being a little more kind of like going towards the God side, the religious side. And the question that Brody asked him was, you know, some of the more evangelicals want you to kind of tone down the insults because they don't like it when you start insulting people. And he was just like, look, this is how life is. This is how business is. And Trump sometimes said himself, I can't help myself. And I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, but that's just how he is.
Yeah, you know what? As somebody who spent most of his life in business, it's not how business is. I didn't spend all of my waking hours personally insulting everybody I came into contact with. Joe, he seems to have a big problem with people who drink too much water. Now, I have to say, that made me think of somebody who I know rather well.
Yeah. And before, everybody's going to say at home that this was some sort of like fixed skit that we practice this. Every night, I go through how many bottles?
Almost a whole thing of
yeah,
that. So
yeah, I go through about 6 or 7 bottles. I like to keep the palate nice and moist. This is more difficult
like Marco Rubio?
I don't sweat, I don't perspire, but I do get the dry mouth. And particularly, I switched toothpaste recently from Aquafresh to Crest, and it just really... Anyway, to answer the question that's somewhere in there besides the water part, a CNN poll post-debate, he's down 8 points. So everybody jumped on that.
In all the other ones,
he's
hanging in there.
He's maintained about the 25-26 level. I brought it up last night, I'll bring it up again. there are three pies to this. There's 1/3 that is absolutely loyal to Donald Trump, to the point where they might even stay home if he doesn't get the nomination. Then there's 1/3 that really isn't paying attention, and he's got to grab those people. And there's 1/3 that will never, ever vote
But
Trump.
you know, we're going to get comments with people being angry at me for not being nice to Mr. Trump. Why doesn't it bother them that the way he attacks a political opponent is by saying he's the sweatiest guy ever?
Because they feel like Republicans have been pushed around by the media, by political correctness for years and years, and this is the guy who's finally punching back.
By
and
insulting people on his own side.
They see a fighter, and they see Marco Rubio as establishment. Jeb Bush was establishment, and that's who Trump went after. Now Marco he sees as the biggest threat, and that's why he's more of a target.
Well, after seeing him booed, Noah, quickly, we just got a few seconds. Is this the end of Trump, or has he still got a long way to go?
He's got a long way to go, but this is the beginning of the end.
This is the beginning. I agree. Share your thoughts on the Trump-Rubio war by going to newsmaxtv.com/comments. We want to hear what you have to say about Watergate. Got that? Up next, we'll tell you how Pope Francis spent his last day in New York. Stay with us.